Hello guys, another deck tech here. So this time it's a fellowship strategy from the movie block, so sets 1 through 10, and it's called Dauntless Sam because of the two most notable cards in the deck, Legolas the Dauntless Hunter and Sam Great Elf Warrior. So this is a control deck, a choking deck combined with the rough power of Sam as a tank. And for those of you who doesn't know what choke means, this is a very popular strategy in the early blocks, in the fellowship block and in the towers block. Basically, this strategy is trying to control the shadow side of the opponent player and to choke their twilight pool, basically to leave them as little um, twilight in the pool as possible and prevent them to play effectively with their shadow side. This way, leaving a lot of shadow cards in their hand and also making troubles for filtering their hand quicker, and they are stuck with a lot of shadow cards and cannot draw effectively their fellowship side either. So Dauntless Hunter is 2 towers block card. It's a version of Legolas that basically says that the twilight cost of each shadow event and shadow condition is +1 for each unbound hobbit you can spot. So Merry and Pippin are unbound hobbits, and you start, starting fellowship, you start with them along with Legolas, and basically the cost of each condition and event on the opponent side is +2, which makes them very ineffective. They cost as much as minions, and decks that are very heavy on events and or conditions struggle to play their strategy effectively. So what this deck tries to do is to slow down the opponent while it's ready, while it's setting up. Basically, you want to set up Sam. It's one of the centerpiece characters. That's why we have 4 copies of it. We want to draw Sam and make him as beefy as possible. How does Sam gains its strength? So Sam has ability that says that he's strength +1 for each Hobbit companion you can spot. This means at the beginning we have 2 companions, Merry and Pippin, and also Frodo. So he is 6 strength initially. However, we have few more cards that are pumping some strength. First card is Rosy Cotton, that is an ally, and also heals some. Then we have Hobbit Sword or Sting that some can bury. Also, we have another very prominent card in the deck, a Promise. This basically says that when you can spot Frodo and Sam, and they are not exhausted. Each of them is strength +1. So 4 copies of Promise means that you can pump Sam and Frodo +4 in the best case scenario. And this means that Sam can reach about 13 or 14 power in the course of the game, which is quite strong. So this is the tank side of the deck, but what about the choking side? How do we leave little to no, not enough mana in the pool for our opponent to act on? So as you can see, most of our cards cost 1 or 0 twilight. We have also 2 copies of Talent for Not Being Seen. That basically says this is a support area condition. It says that each time the fellowship moves, you can spot 2 Hobbit companions to make the shadow number -1. So basically removing 1 from the twilight cost. Or if you can spot 4 Hobbits, you can make it -2. When you have some, you will have a total of 4 Hobbits. so it is very easily achievable. Another card is Escape. Um, it it says that you can exert the bearer twice to cancel a skirmish involving him, but the shadow player can remove one to prevent this. This can be, a bearer must be only unbound Hobbit, but since we're leaving very little twilight to the shadow player, Escape becomes very effective for canceling skirmishes. Um, so what else do we play in the deck? In terms of pump spells, we're playing, of course, Hobbit Swords and the Sting. We're playing one pure skirmish event, um, Chance Observation, which says that if there are 4 or more Hobbit cards in your discard pile, you can make a Hobbit Strength +1 for each Hobbit you can spot. So it's a nice pump for dire situation. And what else we have in the deck? We have one more companion in the face of Boromir, Son of Denethor, which can also pump any Hobbit by exerting. The versions that we play of Merry and Pippin are one of the strongest versions printed, so Merry can additionally um, increase any companion's power by exerting him twice and adding his strength to another companion. And Pippin can serve, can save us in a lot of situations at the beginning of the game when there are still roaming minions. You can return him to your hand and wound the roaming minion twice. He also serves as a nice cushion for any wounding. For example, you can place 3 archery on Pippin, then return him to your hand and play him next round, this way basically preventing 3 wounds. And we have a bunch of allies. We have one Dwarven ally, which is very universal, very easy to use and very easy to splash. This is Trarin. His ability is that in the maneuver phase you can exert him and basically allow him to battle or take archery fire. He's often used just for he's basically mostly one-time use just to take a very strong or very unpleasant minion, and basically he's sacrificed in this battle. The rest are Hobbit allies. Farmer Maggot is healing Merry Pippin. Rosie is healing Sam. The Gaffer, Sam's father, is healing Sam and Frodo. And we have 2 copies of Hobbit Party Guest. They are healing your other allies. And of course we have Frodo, Old Bilbo's Hair, who is healing one ally at the beginning of your turn. Other cards we have in the deck, we have this artifact, I'm hoping I'm pronouncing this right, Fail of Galadriel. So usually you attach it to some Hobbit, and in the skirmish you can remove the game text from a minion skirmishing this Hobbit. This is very useful for removing keywords like damage +1, fears, and other nasty effects. We have Narrow Escape, which is very useful first when we want to prevent some regroup abilities of the shadow player during the regroup phase. As you know, in the regroup phase, the fellowship player acts first, so if we can spot 2 hobbits, we discard a minion. If we can spot 4 hobbits companions, we can discard 2 minions. We can do this before any shadow player has an ability to act. So if they have some nasty regroup abilities, we can discard their companions before that. Also, it is useful if we want to jump ahead, if we want to make a second jump. It's useful to clear our way since our Hobbit doesn't have abilities like damage +1 or something effective to clear minion waves. And two other cards, very classic Hobbit cards, the Tale of the Great Ring, that prevents a Hobbit from being overwhelmed unless its strength is tripled. Actually, he cannot be overwhelmed at all unless a shadow event is played during the skirmish. And There and Back Again, which additionally pumps your Hobbit for one turn. And yeah, basically this is the deck. What this deck is strong against. Basically, any shadow that relies on conditions and events, but is generally very unpleasant for shadows because of the little twilight that this deck leaves in the pool. It also has a lot of companions, which makes this fellowship side good against swarms and any shadow sides that try to wound things, because your hobbits has a lot of vitality, and as we said, Pippin can take several wounds before returning to your hand. What this deck is weak against? Basically, any strategy that has beefy companions, that has any kind of discount. So cheap and beefy companions, because other than Sam, your companions are not very strong. So anything big, any effects that has plus damage +1 or fears are very hard to beat. Besieger is one example, because if Besieger take control of a site, they start becoming cheap, they start becoming more with more strength, and it's hard for you to combat. What this deck pairs well with, so what can you choose as your shadow site? Basically, any shadow site will work. This is a strong deck. This is a Tar 1 deck. So any beatdown or swarm shadow site will work well. So another variant of this deck I can show you. This focus more of on a Sam and making him tough with promises. So in this variant, you're starting with Sam and Merry and Pippin, but these are different versions of Merry and Pippin. So Merry, when he bears a weapon, he's strength +2, and Pippin prevents opponent from discarding your tails. You will see that this deck focuses more on condition type that has the tail keyword. So this condition everyone knows. This is a condition that says that each unbound hobbit, meaning Merry and Pippin, is strength +1 for each vitality they have over 3. And during the skirmish, you can discard this condition to prevent this an unbound hobbit from being overwhelmed unless their strength is tripled. So basically what these conditions does, they add 1 to the strength of Merry and Pippin for each of them. Then when you have escape, they add 1 more. This, of course, in case Pippin and Merry have their full health. And once they are wounded during a skirmish, you can save them by sacrificing everyone knows. We're also playing an extra copy of There and Back Again, because it's also a tale, and the Tale of the Great Ring, it's also a tale. Why we're playing so much tales? Well, because of Bilbo. Bilbo, well-spoken gentleman, a gentle hobbit, is one of the few Hobbit cards that can remove conditions. So you can exert Bilbo and discard a tail to discard a shadow condition. And of course, we're playing Frodo, old Bilbo's hair, who can heal one of your allies at the beginning of the turn. We're playing one more Hobbit sword here because Merry has bonus for wearing a weapon. But basically, as you can see, other cards are basically the same. Legolas here is just a companion within the deck, so we're not starting with him, but we can draw him at some point of the game and make the life of the opponents a little bit harder. So this deck is giving a little bit more twilight to the opponent, but also you start with your toughest companion right away, and here you have the ability to discard conditions more easily. Another difference is the starting ring. We are starting with such a way to carry, which gives Frodo 2 more power, 2 more strength. And at one point of the game, Frodo could become also a very tanky ring bearer. Basically, he can become like 10 or so with the Hobbit sword, with the sting, and he can become 11 or 12 strength, which is quite a lot. And it's just funny to beat minions with your ring bearer. A notable side for this type of decks with a lot of hobbits is sleeping quarters. Basically, when the fellowship moves from this first site, you can spot 3 hobbits to remove 2, which adds to the choking part of the deck. And yeah, this is basically the strategy. In terms of cards that are currently errated by the player council, Legolas, Dauntless Hunter, of course, is one prominent card that has been errated. And you can see the latest errata. So each time a shadow event or shadow condition is played, you're just removing 1 for each unbound hobbit. And the limit is +2. So basically, instead of making shadow events and conditions more expensive, we are just removing from the twilight pool. So a little bit less of a punishment of this very strong card. Another card that has been errated is Talent for Not Being Seen. So I think this is the latest errata. So now to play you must exert Merry or Pippin, so very specific, and now it's not a support area condition. Instead, one of your hobbits must be the bearer, so much more prone to be discarded if this bearer dies. And now each side shadow number is just -1. In contrast with if you have 4 hobbits, you can make it -2. So less effective than its original version. But yeah, choking strategy is very strong, very unpleasant for the opponents to play against because it's stopping their play. It's hurting not only their shadow, but as a result, their fellowship site as well. And that's it for today. Catch you with the next deck tech. Bye for now.